Okay. So I wanted to say a few words about the studios at Cocoa Beach for those that are signed in on the internet and that aren't here. We're a not-for-profit gallery. There's roughly 25 artists that are resident artists in the gallery. And we all take turns doing shifts, keeping the doors open, and we have a board of directors that kind of make sure that everything stays functional and works. So that's a little bit about the studios. We are in our ninth year. We're going to have a 10th year celebration this coming November. So we're really proud of the studios. We're surviving, and we're bringing a little bit of art and culture into the Cocoa Beach area. So that's a little about that. I want to introduce my lifelong friend and photographer, Marc Muench. Marc?
Hey, Brean.
Hey, hey.
Uh, I don't know if people can hear me there, but here I go. We can talk and make sure everybody understands a little bit about the fun times we've had. Good to see you again, Brean. You're
Yes,
looking
Marc.
pretty sharp there.
Thank you. Oh, I
And thanks for
cleaned
having
up,
me.
did you?
No, thanks for having me, Brean. This gallery has meant a lot to you. I've heard about how special it is for you personally, and I know how influential that is in the community to have a local gallery. So I'm thrilled that you guys are doing well and probably doing surviving, but it was fun. Please thank Amanda and Rebecca also who set this up. I
Yes,
know
yes, yes.
this is the first time where we're sharing this online, and thank you for doing that because in a week I head off to Morocco, so it would have been a little difficult to swing to Florida on my way to Morocco, but I'm glad I'm here virtually, and we got a couple stories to share.
Yes, we do have a few stories. I think we could fill the whole evening. No problem.
Well, we'll try and be a little more brief, make a long story short. But I just wanted to say that we did this. Doing this for quite a few years. And we started a long time ago. It wasn't when we met, but we climbed Mount Rainier. And then just this last year, last or 2 years ago, we went out and explored in Utah. And the amazing part of that is that we've actually used the same cooking pot for something like 37 years.
Yeah, and I just borrowed it to go to Nevada too, didn't I? Yeah.
So we have to thank our forefathers. No joke. We I have to be I actually am very happy and blessed because my grandfather stopped here in Santa Barbara in his journey from Germany back in the 30s, and he set up shop here and he never left. And when he came over here, he was on the road through a lot of different uh, places, including Monument Valley, as you can see here, Mount Rainier. I have some of these pictures out of his old album, the black and white one on the bottom, and then the one on the top is when he was out in Utah. And I don't know this for sure, Brim, but I think it's actually called Factory Butte right now. So I like the name Much Butte better, but that didn't really stick. But that's my grandmother, Joyce, the woman who's in the picture right next to the sun, and then a couple of the local farmers out there. And then you sent me this picture of Preston.
So the photo on the right is my grandfather, Preston Duncan. So Preston was a movie industry still and motion photographer for Warner Brothers Studios, and he was on a stunt team of six. They used to do all kinds of crazy stunts with the cameras for the motion pictures, and they actually had an accident. Five of the members of his photography team, were killed. So he decided the writing was on the wall. It was time for him to go. So he set up his own studio in Hollywood, California. He photographed a lot of the movie stars at the time there, and then he went and helped to start the photography department at the Art Center, which Marc knows a little about, right, Marc?
This this is where it gets a little odd, Brian. Yes, Art Center is where my parents met.
Huh?
So my mother came from Wisconsin and became a graphic artist, and that's where she learned her trade and her art. And who else there was my father, David Muench, studying his last few years in photography. And so that's where my life started in a way.
Uh-huh.
And so that's our history at Art Center. And then I actually attended Art Center as well, where I studied photography, or it was digital, and learned quite a bit about the light and composition and publishing and printing. So all that I kind of take with me as we go into all these pictures. But yeah, so we have a little history behind us, Brean.
Yes. Little family history. Yep. So, yeah,
Well, if you wanted
I
to
was
carry
just
on
going to
something.
say, so all of those individuals around my grandfather, who's in the black with the tie in front of the vehicle, you'll notice there's a large format camera on a tripod raised up really high above Preston, and he's discussing um, with students from the art center. Those are his students. He used to take his students with him on commercial shoots so they could not only help him, but get experience in real world situations. So this was a car commercial for Nash in Monument Valley, Mark.
Another interesting coincidence. Yeah, Art Center were great about that. They had product designers, they had car designers as well. And so when I was going to school at Art Center, they would make these clay models of new automobiles, and then the photo majors would come over and photograph them in a studio. And so we would work together in that sense. It's really a great college. I learned quite a bit, learned a lot about it. So. Well, I learned a lot about everything except for one thing. At that time, the instructors there were asking me what I wanted to study, whether it would be journalism and or portraiture or fashion or architecture. And I was like, no, no, no.
Wasn't the answer they
I'm
wanted to
I'm
hear.
kind of do what my father did. So, and the interesting part is they had no landscape photography instructor. So thankfully, I had a little uh, some tips from my father and my grandfather, and just like you. So my vision was to get in the outdoors, and so even though I had met Brean before I went to Art Center, we met in high school. We both had the same commitment of what we wanted to do with our time, and I think for Brean it was probably spare time. For me, it was like it was my job. So I could mix the two things at the same time, which clearly has influenced Brian, so he could do the same now in his
Yep.
career. So you remember this, Brian?
I do. I do. I absolutely do. I remember exactly where we were right there. That's a
This,
farewell. That's Farewell Gap in Mineral King.
that's right. Yep, the long, windy road that
Oh,
takes
man,
4 hours to get
that
up
was
there past the
brutal.
little gas station.
Brutal.
Don't know if it's still there.
Yeah.
But we did a lot of trips in Yosemite, Tuolumne Meadows, and Kings Canyon. This was kind of our backyard, a good 5 to 6 hours away. So we have lots of memories of the places and things we photographed. Remember this night?
I do. I sure do. That was above Farewell Gap on the peak, up and around that pass that we were just you just photographed.
Well, this is where most people would think, oh yeah, let's put camp up, in the gap so that there's less wind. And no, that's not what I was thinking. I had this vision of photographing this tent, which is a Bibler tent, up on the top of the mountains. Believe it or not, we set up tent and we slept on a ledge. So
It's
we
funny.
did spend the night.
I should have sent you that image because I have our camp on the ledge and I had it out and I didn't send it, but I should have. Now I should have.
Well, we got quite a few good ones coming, but yes, I know we've got a lot of good ones. One of the other places we go was our
Josh.
favorite Joshua Tree. So Yeah, we have quite a few good climbs there, and good times out camping.
Should
Brean,
I
I know you
tell?
started climbing here.
Yeah, should I tell the Joshua Tree story about you and the calendar with the art director?
Oh no.
Yeah, so this is a great story. So Mark had, when he was at the art center, he needed to work with, there was an assignment. He had to work with an art director on a project. So he met with this art director. They decided they were going to do a calendar. So Mark calls me up and said, "Hey, would you come out and climb for us? I'm going to photograph you on this wall for a calendar." I said, "Sure. When do you want me there?" So I go and I show up. I think I was in a white or a gray shirt. And Mark looks at me and goes, "You don't have a brighter color shirt?" I said, "Well, I'm sorry, I don't." And he looks at the art director, who's this great big guy, and he's wearing a bright green shirt. He goes, "Switch shirts." So I put on this green shirt and I try and tuck it in, and I go climb up on this wall, and I'm literally a speck on the wall way up high. And so Mark invites Lorene and I with his girlfriend, fiance, now his wife Stephanie, to their place, and he wants to show off his calendar and show us. He flips to the page where I'm on the wall, and I'm literally a speck on this wall in a green shirt. And Lorene says, "That shirt is huge on you." And absolutely just destroyed Mark right there. One comment.
I'm not in wardrobe. What can I say? I hired a new department after that. So this is kind of the beginning of one of our better trips, I thought, where we climbed Mount Hood and then Mount Rainier, all in the same 2 weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
And so I know it influenced me in a lot of things I've done since then, and that's why I wanted to show some pictures of it, especially this one, because I can't believe I actually asked you to go out there, Brian,
Yeah. And I
and then
did.
you actually did it.
Oh, yeah. So that was a product shot for North Face, wasn't it, Mark?
It did end up getting used, yes.
Yeah. And the story, should we tell the story about that trip and the whole kerfuffle in the parking lot?
Well, yeah, we ended up climbing early in the morning, really early. So we got up at 2 or something
Yeah.
and made our way up there, and then had this great morning. I think sun was just coming up when we reached the top. We weren't too far after sunrise. Anyways, we come down, and as we're coming down, we noticed a couple rocks sliding. But what we noticed, which was kind of odd, I thought, as kind of a mountaineer, is that there were parties still climbing the mountain. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
The time we were down in the parking lot, they hadn't even reached the summit.
Yeah. So what I wanted to talk about was the whole the so there was a climbing party that got lost on the mountain, and
Oh,
there
before.
yeah.
That's right.
So
I thought you meant the avalanche story, but yeah.
no, so we were coming down from climbing. Like Mark said, we started at 2 a.m. in the morning, climbed by headlamps, got to the peak just as the sun was rising. And you want to get off of those mountains during the heat of the day because they've become unstable, and their avalanches are frequently a frequent occurrence during the heat of the day. So we get up and try to get down. We got back to Mark's truck in the parking lot, and there were news crews putting their cameras and microphones up to us, asking us about the conditions and did we see any other climbing parties and all. It was mayhem in the parking lot. So we threw our stuff in the truck and left out of there as quickly as we could. So that will lead into another story here, probably about Mount Rainier.
So, yeah, so there's this next climb we had envisioned as well, which was not really the normal route up Mount Rainier. We decided to go up the northern slope of the mountain, which was, it's a little steeper and a little more technical probably because of some of the conditions that you reach getting there. So we came around to the south side, which is a lodge called Paradise, and we were in the parking lot. We had to leave a vehicle there and then take another vehicle, drive all around to the north side to the Carbon River Valley, where you hike up through a rainforest until you get to this picture here of a camp on the bottom of the mountain, the base of the mountain. And so we're there packing our bags, and then one of the guys that's with us realizes that he doesn't have his crampons. And so
We
he
left
needed
his
all four of them.
crampons in the parking lot in at Mount Hood because all the chaos with all the reporters and the news crews and stuff. So he didn't have his crampons, and we were on a really tight schedule to try to climb this mountain so we could all get back to work. And so our dream was slipping away of climbing the north face of Mount Rainier. And it was dark. We were standing in the parking lot trying to figure out, what are we going to do? Are we going to leave Mike behind with no crampons? He's not going to be able to climb with us. Are we going to go? Or are we going to try to find a mountaineering store in the morning and then drive around and just see if we can summit? So there were some people coming off of the mountain late, and there were these two women walking by, and I made some flippant comment like, you wouldn't happen to have a size 13 crampon, would you? To these, well, I mean, we were desperate, and it was just making a snide comment, really. And she says, well, you know what? My husband, he's a park ranger, and he has size 13 crampons. He's away on a trip right now. If you write us a check, or if you have cash for the value of the crampons, we'll loan them to you. Oh. Wow. Just like that. We were back on.
It was meant to be, for sure. That wasn't the normal situation. So yeah, we drove all the way around, got there around 2 a.m., started our hike up to that valley. Gosh, when I think back about that, it's like 7,000 feet up with those big packs on.
We did 7,000 feet to approach that ridge the first day with heavy packs. Yes.
And that was just to get to the base of the mountain. And then the next day,
and there it is.
We started early. And that night, what we didn't tell you is that right where we were camping here at the base of the big glacier, there were avalanches coming off from the crest at the top up there. And so you typically put camp to the side of the valley because you don't want an avalanche coming down and knocking over your tent. At least that's the theory. But somehow,
good practice to stay alive.
There was an avalanche, and it came down, and it was loud. I'll tell you what. But I do remember at about 3 a.m. when the avalanche was coming, it basically flattened our tent on our faces.
Pinned us down. The powder blast.
It was all air and a little snow, but it flattened our four-season tent.
Yes, it did.
There were some four-letter words coming out of your mouth, Brean.
Honestly, I thought that was our last moment on Earth. I did. I thought we were done. I thought that was it right there.
And then we hiked up the next morning. We were alive. We were walking around through these, around the side of these crevasses. As you can see here, we're roped up also. But what happened was I was following the other two guys in front of me, and I was stepping in a different place as we were walking across this snow bridge over this crevasse. And my left foot went straight through into the void. But thankfully, it curled my right leg up, so my knee was bent, and I had a bigger, larger footprint because of that, and held me. But what that did is it shoved the front of my crampon right into the inner thigh of my left leg, and I almost bled to death.
So there we
are. About a half an inch away.
We survived an avalanche that morning, and then we got Mark. We're trying to patch Mark up so we can try to climb. And I had to self-arrest to keep him from going into the crevasse. That was an epic morning. And then what about the rock fall?
It didn't end there. Yes. Here's Brean coming up below me, and he's got his water bottle on his side, and little pieces of lava were melting as the ice melts on the top, and they started tumbling down the hill. They pick up a lot of speed, even though it's your pinky. And one of them hit his water bottle and shattered it, from what I recall.
So I'm front pointing on crampons and ice axes, and there's rocks coming off at us. We're wearing helmets and stuff, and I'm going dodging like this, and a big rock comes down, hits my water bottle that's inside the side pack pocket of the pack, and just burst it. So I didn't now I don't have a water bottle.
Don't you love climbing? It's a good thing we can tell about these in past tense. But this was the technical part. This is about, I don't know, 1,000 feet, 500,000 feet of kind of water ice. And so you have to use your front points and your ice axes to get up through it and put anchors in the ice. And that was, thankfully, we were past that. So that's really what we were grateful for, was to be alive, the great weather we had, and all the wonderful, good stories we could tell once we were down.
It was an
But
adventure.
it
Well
was a
lived.
great adventure, one we'll never forget. And that kind of led me to do something that I had done before. My father, David, is not much of a climber, and so it encouraged me to ask him to go do Mount Hood with us. And so this is my father ascending through the pearly gates. It really is the pearly gates. This is up on the top of Mount Hood, and so we were able to drag him up there, and he loved it. It was a great experience. So um, thankfully, I kind of knew what to do to keep him alive. Um, and you remember where this is, Brian?
Lone Peak Cirque, Utah.
So you were out lecturing, talking about remote sensing at Snowbird Lodge,
Right.
and we planned to meet up and do a climb up here. And so this climb is it's a pretty wild location. The only way to get there was to climb up a mountain, 5,000 feet of scree, basically,
Oh,
out from a neighborhood. So we had to find the edge of the neighborhood and park our car and then find this trail and ascend all the way up this mountain to get to this little basin. And then right in the background in one of the cliffs behind this is where the route was. It
we
was a
climbed right
beautiful
up that
five
spire.
pitch, right
Climbed
up the
right up
spire.
that
It was like
central
five pitches,
spire there.
5'8".
Yeah.
Beautiful climb. I don't know. I'm sure it's still there. There's probably an easier trail to get there now.
Man, oh man, that was difficult. Oh yeah. So here we are. This is Aspen, Colorado, Conundrum Basin.
Yeah, this was a fun trip too. We decided to get some skins. Those are purple things on the backs of our skis that helps you ascend the mountain in the snow, hard packed snow. And then, of course, that then allows you to pull the skins off and downhill ski back down. And that's part of the joy and the fun of doing that. So here we are getting ready to go up, packing our 100-pound backpacks,
Yep.
ready
Lots of
for the
camera equipment in those bags.
lots of camera gear, lots of salami, lots of cheese. And so these are long days in the spring, which is about now, maybe a little later, April. And so to kill some time, we decided to make an igloo, which was took a little skill. I remember it wasn't the easiest thing to do. This
And
was
Mark, we took igloo building to a new low.
yeah, we didn't even have a fireplace. But we did find some great hills and hiked up, I don't know, skinned up 4 or 5 of the peaks around us. And a beautiful trip, great weather.
So I'm
Um,
pointing
so
to the our tracks off that summit. So Mark and I, we'd skin up, and then we would ski down, and so that you can't really see very well. But I'm pointing to our S turn ski tracks coming down off.
beautiful place. And I was busy working pictures of extreme skier Brean Duncan ascending the mountain. But all these pictures did well when I was working for a commercial photography back in the 90s. And so that was through Getty and some of the other agencies that resold them. And then we have a recent trip here wanted to share. This is up to the Dollhouse,
So
which is a
she's at it
very
again. She says, "Nice shorts."
uh,
Lorene's in the crowd.
wait. Who, yours or mine? I
Oh
believe it's
no,
mine.
let's not go there.
I love it. So we ended up driving out to this place. The Dollhouse is the most remote campground in all of North America. And it's all because of the access road to get out there. So we part of the way out, we went out to this arch, which is actually Whitmore Bridge, isn't it? Right? Isn't that
Whitmore,
right, Brean?
yeah, Whitmore, and I have that so everybody knows. One of my black and whites in the gallery is of this arch. It's being exhibited.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place, and it was a fun,
You
fun
want to
adventure. There
tell how
was
you knew about the Whitmore Arch?
Whitmore Arch. Well, it was funny because I was told by one of our guests that they were looking for it, and I had couldn't find it on a map. All over. He had looked all over. He had asked rangers. I had asked guides. Nobody had heard of it, and so we were just driving up here along the road. This is the Great Road. And I was looking at my Gaia and scrolling, zooming in and out, and sure enough, there's Whitmore Arch on the map. And I'm shocked that, I mean, I understand why nobody knew where it was because it's in the maze, right? It's just like the Maze District in Canyonlands, which is hundreds of little canyons that come down into the Colorado River basin, and they all look like this. And so you can get lost there easily. And so it was just up this, you had to go off the road down a little trail and then scurry up another
I
side
know.
canyon.
Yeah.
So it was a fun place to go. But the Dollhouse is beautiful. It's an incredible place to go camp. And this is one of the designated camps. Most of the year, it's hard to get a campsite out there because the Park Service monitors it. And unlike the old days when you thought you could just go and camp and don't worry, the ranger's not going to get you. Well, because we have stories about that in Yosemite, don't we, Brian?
Oh yeah. So
But you can't do that here because on the drive out, we saw this woman driving in this beautiful jacked up Jeep from the National Park Service coming out to patrol.
trolling. Yeah. And so that other vehicle, so Wayne Suggs was along on this trip. I don't know if Wayne was able to join us on the meeting tonight, but Wayne was with us, who's another professional photographer. Fantastic work. If you ever get a chance, please look up Wayne's work. He's one of the Muench workshops pros and is
Yes.
phenomenal, phenomenal photographer.
Yep. He has the other truck behind my gray one. And we were out there thinking that at some point we could maybe photography workshop out here. But the course doesn't allow that because of the access, because of the road, which is probably a good idea. It's a long
Well,
ways out there.
it is. You
It's
get
not
in
an easy
trouble, you're
drive.
in trouble.
Absolutely. But it's a beautiful spot. So we were out photographing the stars this morning, and one of the things that I was proud of for many years is not losing equipment or dropping it or doing stupid things with it. But it was early in the morning, and we were kind of done photographing the stars, and so I thought, well, I'm just gonna I'm gonna lower the point of view of my camera a little bit, and there's two knobs on my tripod head, my old tripod head, and I had them perfectly aligned. And so as I loosened the wrong one, thinking it was just loosening the tilt, it was actually loosening the cleat that holds the camera. And so the camera took a dive off the cliff, and I don't know if you can see that, but I still have it. It's on my top of my dresser over here as my tumbled camera that went down 80 feet down the cliff and splintered into 50
So,
pieces.
so let me tell my side of the story. So Mark and I are on a long ledge up on a cliff, and we're photographing out across this scene with the Milky Way right in between those spires, and it's pitch black. When you're working together with another photographer, you can't turn on a light. So you have to know the buttons and the settings on your camera. You can't turn on a light to find them. You have to do everything. And that's why Mark, when he was adjusting his tripod, he actually released his camera off the tripod and it went tumbling down the cliff. And I heard what was happening. I was down the ledge and I heard the crash, boom, thud. And I said, and Mark was silent, not a word. And I said, Mark, please tell me that was a rock. And there was more silence than I knew. That was a very, very expensive medium format digital camera and lens that went over the cliff. So sorry about your loss, Mark.
Oh,
Rest in peace.
I have it right here. I haven't buried it yet.
Yeah, you gonna read
this picture is from an iPhone. But we've had some great times, and we have a lot of other stories to tell. But I do want to share some of the images that are in the show tonight and talk a little bit about them. So this next images will be a group of about 10 shots that images that are from Brean and myself. And the first one is that's there in the gallery is the trolls of Iceland. Trolls are really interesting in Iceland because they are no joke. A lot of the locals still believe in the folklore, and to the extent that in Iceland, when you take the road all the way around the island, in the north part of the road, and actually even the south, many of the villages, before they start construction on the bridges that cross the rivers, they go out, consult with the trolls, and they do ask permission that they can construct this bridge across the river. And so there was a bridge in the north, and this has happened several times from what I understand, where they didn't consult the trolls. And so, sure enough, they built this beautiful bridge, cost them $8 million, whatever it was. This was about 10 years ago. And what happens in Iceland is these big volcanoes in the middle of the island go off, melt the ice, snow, and there's floods. And so one of those floods took out the bridge. And so the village said, well, oh, we got to make the bridge again. And so they went out there and they made the bridge again. And they didn't consult with the trolls. And so another volcano went off, it got hot, and literally it flooded the bridge again. And so finally, the mayor of the city says, oh my gosh, you guys, I mean, I'm making a long story short, but he says, we have to go out and consult with the trolls. And so they did, and they made another bridge, and it's still standing. Yeah. So stories like that go around in Iceland. But this picture, the first time I noticed them on one of my first trips, you can see the noses of all the trolls that they say are in stone, engulfed in stone, and all the lava that are all over Iceland. And so it's just a fun picture. I look at these pictures as I like the theme of pareidolia, which is a psychological phenomenon where you're identifying something that doesn't exist, like the rabbit in the moon, like seeing Bugs Bunny in the clouds. And so these are fun ways to look at nature for me.
So this is one of my images. Mark was, so this is in Nevada. This is in the Great Basin National Park in Nevada, which is mind-blowing. If you ever get the chance, go there. It's really remarkable. There's so few people there, they don't even charge. There's no toll booth. I couldn't believe it. I'm driving up the road and I got to the top and I said, where's the toll booth? And there's nobody around hardly. I went to the vistas, there's nobody there. So the story about this tree is interesting, and I'm going to tell my version of it. Mark, you please jump in and correct me here where I'm wrong. But so this tree was initially discovered and photographed by Mark's father, David, and it ended up on the brochure for the Great Basin National Park and became famous. People love the tree. It has this incredible form, the roots. I don't know if you can see the S-shaped roots coming down off of the tree. And so people try to find it. And Mark was supposed to be with me on this trip, but life happened and he wasn't able to join me. But Mark asked me if I would please go find this tree and photograph it and also mark it on Gaia for him. So I did, and this is my version of it. But what happened was I drove up onto the summit where the tree is known to be. And I walked around all day photographing and never found the tree. So I'd kind of given up and I drove the Jeep up to the summit to watch the sunset. And I looked down and there's a grove of ancient bristlecones down over the north face of this peak, very steep, but about 1,000 feet down off the peak. So I put my long lens on, I started photographing, and I was searching through the images looking for this tree, and I found it. I grabbed my pack out of the Jeep and just started scurrying down to go find it. And this is my version of photographing this tree.
Yeah, I hadn't been there since I was probably, I'm gonna guess here, 10 years old when we hiked up from the other side. And I remember the 25-mile hike, actually 5, but it felt like 25 at that age. So it had been a long time. And so I didn't know exactly where it was. And it is really hard to get to.
It's very
And
difficult.
now knowing that when I was looking at going out here, I noticed this trail, which is a Jeep trail on Gaia, and you have no idea really if it's passable or not. And so I had mentioned to Brean that this Jeep trail might go, it might end halfway up, I have to hike the rest, whatever. But the road goes all the way up, which is amazing. There's an easement through the park so that it can go up there based on mining grants. And I'm sure that's why there's the road. But beautiful shot, Brean, and you nailed it.
Thank you. Thank you. It's here on display in the gallery.
So this is the Yukon Gold, I call it. The when I grew up in Santa Barbara, California, and it's a lot like Florida, really. It's kind of like a bubble. They have great neighborhoods. There's food everywhere, and it's safe. And so, in my mind, there were these exotic places to go, and one of them was the Yukon. And especially, I didn't know this at the time, but when you get up to the Yukon, there's a Lake Magog, which is a great poem about freezing to death in the Yukon. But
Sounds great.
what is up there that's so magically inspirational is when the sun goes down, the northern lights come out, and that's when the whole place transforms into this exotic, surreal landscape. And so that's why I shared this picture.
Beautiful. Yeah. So Mark, this is a surprise for you. You haven't seen this version of it. I actually processed this recently. And this is an arch that Mark took me to. Now, Mark is an encyclopedia of magnificent places in the West. His grandfather and his father had discovered so many places, and Mark knows the West like nobody I've ever met. He took me to this arch, and so I was going to Grand Junction to meet Mark and Wayne Suggs. Wayne was conducting a Muench workshop, night sky workshop that I was going to participate in. And Mark was coming to get me at the Grand Junction airport, and he had a little time to kill. So he went and found this arch. Mark, why don't you tell the story about how you discovered this arch?
Yeah, sure. I had seen this hole on the horizon about 10, 12 years before that year, and I knew there was this what looked like a gigantic arch in my mind out there somewhere in the middle of one of the more remote places in Utah. The I-70 interstate goes through this country, was the last interstate completed in the US. And what's out there is a bunch of old uranium mines. And so there are little roads that go through what's called the San Rafael Swell, but there aren't many of them and they're not that well documented. So as time evolves, some of those little roads became a little more kept up, if you will, because of the ATV. And so there were a few more roads. And I thought, well, maybe if I can go out there, first of all, to the viewpoint where I saw it, find it with my binoculars, because I'm going to be driving right by it when I go pick up Brean in Grand Junction. If I can see it, then maybe I'll try and find it. And so sure enough, I get off the freeway. I'd been driving for hours and I sit down on a rock and I'm scanning and scanning and literally for, I don't know, I want to guess like 10 minutes, I don't find it because the light isn't right. If in the morning when it's silhouette, you can see this hole much easier, but it was like noon. So anyways, I finally find it and there's that hole. And so I get my get my truck, drive out there, and I find these little roads on Gaia that lead me right out to it. And so it's just blows my mind that that's even possible nowadays with all the information we have. It's wonderful. And so I'm driving along out on this road. It keeps getting smaller, and the road gets smaller, and there's no tracks. And right behind me, there's this big giant coming in like it's going to rain. And I'm driving over hill after hill of what's called bentonite, which is when it gets wet, it is completely impassable. And so I'm going up and down these hills on bentonite, thinking that if I get out here and it rains, I'm not picking up Brean. So he's gonna have a good workshop. Anyways, luckily it didn't rain, and I found the arch. And then I said to myself, "Wow, I gotta, I gotta go back there." And thankfully, we had some time after the workshop, and I was able to bring Brean back out there.
So this is Mark's brainchild, and it was just it was really a magical experience. We were able to somehow align ourselves so we could find the moon and then photograph it through the arch. So I've got two shots of two different compositions in the gallery right now in the exhibition. This one's 200 millimeters. The other one is at 70 millimeters.
Did you happen to share the Gaia tracks of us finding the right spot, walking around in
I
circles
didn't,
for
and you
two
know
hours?
what? I hope you can find it again because I don't think I could, to be honest. And
I
I'm a little concerned about that actually because I'd really like to go back.
we got to get it before it falls.
Right. Yeah. And there is the Whitmore Arch. So this is my version of Whitmore Arch, and it is massive. This is three images merged together. I did a bottom, a middle, and a top image, and I merged them together so I could get this composition. And at the time, I wasn't sure it was going to work, but I was committed to it, and it worked out really well. I'm very proud of this image. I love black and white. I love the form and the shadows and the shapes. To me, this is just it's magic.
Yeah, it's stunning, Brian, and the way the foreground is lit up and then it goes to the shadow under the arch and the light that's bounce light off that lit up wall under your feet that's hitting the top of the arch
Mhm.
fills it in so it's not just a black void. And then just a little bit of glow coming off where the sun is behind the cliff. Perfect. Perfect.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Another place that I had been to many times, which is way out at the end of one of the viewpoints at Canyonlands National Park that looks out over this maze of canyons, is Dead Horse Point. And so I have had several times when I'm out there this kind of tingling feeling, like chills, just for no reason at all. And I never knew what it was. I don't know what it is. I have my theories. So as I'm walking around out there, for some reason, I stumbled into this place. I think I was looking for a lost workshop participant or something. I don't know what it was, but I saw it, and this is actually five wide-angle pictures merged together. So the actual shapes of the rocks and boulders are similar but different. And as I was photographing it, I realized that what I was looking at was this wonderful face that's looking down on the canyon. And so to me, it just had that feeling as if it was a raven sitting up there, which, by the way, when you're out there in this country, there are amazing ravens that fly all over and they have this amazing intellect and they actually joke with each other and you can hear them talking, but honestly, you can see them playing in the air and tumbling through the air right in front of you if you're standing on one of these canyon rims. And so this to me just reminds me of why I go out there.
It's beautiful. What a great composition, Mark. So
Thank
Mark and I were standing side by side taking this shot. We were in Sedona visiting with Mark and his wife Stephanie, and Mark was taking me out on a photo excursion that evening, and this rainbow popped up while we were headed towards Cathedral Rock. So we found a quick vista, and we went to town trying to get this photograph of the rainbow. So, Mark, have you ever gotten to your version of it?
I have a good version of it. Yeah, it's Cathedral Rocks is what it's called. And it's hard to get a good shot of Cathedral Rocks. It's photographed often, and so the timing is perfect, Brean. The rainbow's beautiful. It's Sedona. It's such a great spot. I have a good story that one of my commercial shoots was for this ad agency, and they were marketing a new cancer medication, which said something, some byline said, no risk, no glory, because I guess it was not 100% approved by the Federal Drug Association. Not exactly sure what it was, but they were marketing it to physicians. Nevertheless, I'm sure it had some wonderful, charming aspects to it to save lives. But what we did to get the shot that they wanted was have this climber perched on the edge of what's called the Mace Rock, which is that spire in the middle of the shot in Brean's picture here. And so the only way to get that was to hire a climber, have him get up there, go out on a part that wasn't on the route, and then fly a helicopter there and come down low and photograph over at the climber. And so you have to understand that in Sedona, there are what's called vortexes. And vortexes are where the spirits come up from below or from above. I'm not entirely sure, but all over you used to find round circles of quartz rocks, which is geologically possible because there's quartz mixed in with all the sandstone. And that's how it used to be. You'd hike around and see these circles of quartz where people thought the vortexes were. And me being young and silly, I just said vortex, smortex, that's crazy stories. So anyways, we get in the helicopter and I have a manual Pentax 6x7 camera and I have another one as a backup with an assistant. And the helicopter lowers himself down. I'm on the radio telling the climber to get out there and my manual camera dies. It literally will not click the shutter. And so I thought crazy. I'd take the lens off, put it back on, take battery out, put it back on. Nothing worked. And the rotors are spinning and the pilot's in this dangerous little place in this alcove. And so my assistant hands me the other camera. The trigger did not click on both cameras. Pentax manual camera, neither trigger fired. So we took off, went over, landed at the helicopter. I mean, at the airport, and sure enough, they fired just fine. So I was making sure they were working just fine, and I kept taking pictures as we flew the helicopter back to the same spot and finally got the shot. But that was my vortex story.
Wow.
So this is up on a place called Figueroa Mountain, which is right in the Santa Barbara backcountry here, place that Brean has
Right
been to
above
many
Michael
times.
Jackson's ranch. Never Land.
That's right. Yep. Michael Jackson's place. That's what's lighting up down there. No. This is about this time of year, actually, and where we get a phenomenon here in the San Ynez Valley, where it typically fills up with a low fog, and that is what's required so that it darkens the city lights, so that then you can see the stars above. And so that's what's happening right here. This is at like 2 in the morning at this place on the way up Figueroa Mountain, and it's just one of my favorite little meadows. I've been here many times, even with my wife and family, to have picnics and such. It's a beautiful place, so I call it my view.
Spectacular. Brings me right back home, Mark.
Thank you.
That's Figueroa Mountain. Yeah, those were yes. So this is another shot that was taken in the Great Basin National Park in Nevada on the trip where Marc was initially going to be with me, but then wasn't with me. And so I went up there. Marc had asked me if I would go visit this bristlecone pine stand up at the base of Wheeler Peak in the Cirque. So this is when I drove up the road and was looking for the toll booth, and there wasn't any, a ranger's booth or anything. So I went up, I started hiking as the sun was setting and got up into the Cirque as it was just getting dark. And I was all alone up there. You could hear nothing except for rock fall off the peaks. And it was a spiritual evening for me. I stayed. So I'll explain what I did to get this shot, but I stayed up there balanced on a rock all night, and I took an image every half hour so that I would have the best Milky Way shot, and I was actually waiting for the moon to set. That set at about 2:30, so I stayed all night, photographed every half hour, balanced on this rock. And I didn't move the camera and the tripod because I needed everything to register, because there's actually three images merged together here. There's an image for the sky and the stars. There's an image for the landscape with the peaks and the Cirque. And then there's an image for the tree. And all of those needed to perfectly superimpose, so I could not move the camera. So I literally stayed balanced on a rock all night up there. And it was magic. You could see with your naked eye the Milky Way stretching all the way across the horizon. Unbelievably beautiful there. Really, really magical. This image is special.
I think the Great Basin National Park is definitely a dark sky location. And so it's one of the places in the States to see to see the stars.
Yeah.
Similar to Big Bend. And then a lot of their places are places where you're going to have the influence of city lights, even though you don't notice it at first. But when you get out to a place like this, the stars look brighter, and so you're up at altitude as well. I think the altitude here is around 9,500 feet, something like that.
Somewhere right in there, yeah. Yep.
Great work.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
I remember your response to that shot. I'll never forget it. Wowza.
Oh, wowza. Oh, wowza. This was probably one of my favorite wowza moments. And I look at this as kind of the culmination of a lot of in my career. And this is where, you go out and explore, and all the trips that Brean and I have done over the years are just kind of prep you for moments like this where, you have to get somewhere different, first of all. You can't just photograph this from your house. And so you have to go somewhere, and you have to go somewhere at the right time. And that's the very first step. And then you have to make sure that you know what's going on in the environment when you're there. And then you have to get lucky. And so you do all your work, all your research, until you get to the place where you're there, and then something has to happen. You can't just go there and photograph. So I was here, not on a workshop. It was after one of our trips, and my wife and daughter had come out. And so we were staying in a camp that was down in the wash here to the right. And we were driven maybe a mile out of the camp, and we saw these two brothers, Lyons brothers. And they were just kind of playing with each other and frolicking, and it was cloudy at the time. Not, and then they kind of got distracted, and one of them just took off up this slope, long, long slope. And I was still there, and we were watching the other brother. And he met a female, and well, they were making Mother Nature natural. And so I was photographing, and we were observing that amazing session. And then I realized, or my daughter actually said, well, we should go look for the brother. And I thought, well, that's great. Let's go. And so sure enough, we took the safari vehicle and went up this hill, and we kept going and going until we heard something. And then sure enough, we heard a lion roar, which is kind of there was nobody out there, and we had to stop the vehicle, and we were looking for the lion, and we finally heard this roar again, so we could kind of identify where it was, and then kept getting closer and closer until we finally found him. And what he was doing is he had stopped, and he was turning, and he was calling his brother. And so at that moment, I realized I hadn't even seen the cloud behind him until I saw the lion in the spot, and then I moved the vehicle a little bit. But basically, this huge, gigantic thunderstorm had formed behind him as we're driving up the hill. I mean, it happened all within 5 minutes. And then the rainstorm came down right over his shoulder. So for some of you who may have seen the latest version of The Lion King, Disney spent, I don't know, a lot of money looking for the most beautiful place in all of Kenya to film the next Lion King, or what would be the opening scene for the semi-automated, the newer version of the Lion King. And they looked everywhere and they couldn't find anything as spectacular and beautiful as what's called Rhino Hill, which is that hill behind this lion. And so this picture just kind of brings all that stuff together and makes the perfect, in my opinion, my fun, great wowza moment. And so that's what's good about photography, right, Brean? We just keep getting these moments, these wowza moments. The harder you look, the more you search, the more they happen.
Magnificent, Mark. And I tell people you have to be technically proficient and out there to capture these things, right? If you're not out in it, you can't capture it. And you
That's
have to be
perfect. That's exactly what you're doing here.
technically proficient when the moment arises.
This is Brian being technically proficient and is caught out in Utah. This kind of culminates everything about what we've done over the years. There's no better place to spend the night than under the stars. And so this is just on one of the recent trips. And that's it, most people look at this and might think, well, here you are under the stars and you're looking at your phone. What are you doing, Brian? Looking at your phone at the stars. Actually, Brian was turning on this amazing blues song, and we were both listening to music. So what a beautiful, fun time. Great memories.
Yeah.
Um, that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
And you know how I feel about tents. I hate sleeping in a tent when you can be out under the stars and get the most beautiful star show that nature can provide. I always want to sleep out under the stars if I can. I don't care how cold it is. Magic. Mark, that's wonderful. So while everybody's here, Mark's still with us. Mark, I want you to say some words. This is magnificent. I brought this. I just received this in the mail. I haven't been able to look completely through it. Mark, this is magnificent. Incredible.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah.
So
Yeah, we
tell us about your company and what you do. And I'm going to circulate this around. Please, everybody, take a minute to look through this. This is
awesome.
Mark's workshop company. He does these magazines every year, and they're really, really beautiful. So it's here
Yeah,
to.
thank you, Brian. My business partner David Rosenthal is the one who brainstormed that, and we have somebody else who designs it for us now, and she's amazing. And so we have our team of photographers that write the articles that are in there. Some great stories in there about photography, that how they relate to photography, and that's really the gist of it, is to share all that's out there about photography. We've always had the philosophy that you just there's nothing proprietary about photography. There used to be when you were a commercial photographer and you had a little handshake that you did where you moved the camera and it created a look, and you never wanted anybody to know that that was your proprietary secret that made you hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's nothing like that
You
anymore
mean
in
you can make
photography.
$100,000 in photography?
Oh my God, yes, you can, just by shaking your camera in the right way.
Oh, I've been doing it wrong all this time. Darn.
Yeah, it's fun to experiment with photography, and that's how we look at it. And so we have a great team of people that are taking people around the world right now. We have a trip in Argentina right now. We have one in Death Valley camping, and then and we have another one I in Svalbard, way up in Norway, that they're going to be looking for polar bears soon. So we have found these places around the world that are incredible locations where you can go explore and then also photograph. But thanks for saying that, Brean. We love to teach photography, and we'd love to take people to great places.
Mark, thank you. This is really an honor for me to do this exhibition with you, and yeah, it's really special. And thank you for helping me make this happen. And thank you to the studios at Cocoa Beach and everybody who's part of this organization. This is really an honor. And Mark, thank you.
Yep. Well, thank you too, Brian. It's fun and more fun than ever because, and more special than ever because of our history and then our previous history with our families. And so it's a great culmination of fun stories and good photography. So thank you. And thank you, everybody also who joined who I can't see, but hello.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mark?